Hello, welcome. It's Saturday afternoon, and I finally got a tiny pocket of time. I've been meaning to make a video about the fragrances I'm currently enjoying, and there's a few here. Oh, it's 5, obviously. A lovely handful that I just keep going back to. I've noticed there's a little tag going around with 5 fragrances we love, 5 fragrances we hate, and I'm going to kind of incorporate it into that, although it's not technically the same. It is 5 I love, but there are 5 that I have parted ways with. So it's going to be 5 I love and 5 that have left. I think it's going to be good to get the negative out of the way first. So I'm going to start with the 5 that have left. And these are 5 that I have loved at some point because I've owned them and I've enjoyed them. So the first one I want to talk about is by Juicy Couture. It was the Viva La Juicy Sucre. Now I only had a little 30ml of this, and even when I bought this a couple of years ago, it had been discontinued. It was hard to get hold of. All this really was a sugary sweet sort of mandarin. I don't remember any of the notes, to be honest, but it was a hint of mandarin orange. Mostly it was just sugary sweet, but it had that Juicy Couture sort of DNA. But I just thought it was a really easy, sweet, a little bit retro, comforting kind of a scent. I wore it hardly ever. I sniffed it on occasion. My nose has changed so much that I now don't really reach for ones like that if I want something for sweet comfort, if you know what I mean. Whatever sparkle that one had for me, it just went away. So I decided to part ways with that one. Next, I sold Angelique Noir from the Guerlain L'Art de Matière. I loved and was so excited to have had that when I bought that. I was so excited because it was just before they launched the new brand of Art Matière bottles. The older ones being the long, slender, very elegant, demure bottles, just before that whole new launch. And I loved it for about a month. And then I just forgot why I liked it. It was obviously a phase. It was obviously rose tinted glasses. I just suddenly realised that Angelica, that note just didn't really do it for me. And it's beautifully done in Angelique Noir. It's a very well loved fragrance. The vanilla is that beautiful, elegant, soft, silky vanilla. I never reached for it. I never found a time to wear it. It didn't suit really any occasion. It died a slow death for preference for me. So I decided to part ways with that about 4 months ago. That was Angelique Noir. So the next one I parted ways with recently was from Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and that was the Loa Rose. I've had that for about 2.5 years. It was a pretty pink rose petal fragrance, very light, very wispy, angelic. It had musk in the dry down. I think there was a bit of grapefruit in the opening. It had a very slight freshness in the opening. It went very musky. Well, no, it didn't go very musky. It didn't. It stayed very light and elevated and pretty. But there was a musk quality that started associating me with it, with bathroom spray, more toilet spray. And I can't say that it was I don't think anyone else would ever get that. I've got a funny relationship with musks. It's a very pretty scent, but there was just a quality in it that suddenly started to bother me. And every time I picked it up to try it, it's all I could think about was a lingering scent of something you would spray in a bathroom, a pretty bathroom spray, but not something I want to smell beautiful with. It stopped being a pretty fragrance to reach for, and it became something else. And in the end, I just kept this bottle because it was a pretty bottle. It was an MFK. I thought, no, I'll come back to it at some point, as is the way, but I never did. And I'm pleased I've sold it because it was the right thing to do. So that was Loa Rose from MFK. Another fragrance I only parted ways with I think it was only a week ago actually, was from Ormande, one of my Ormande Jaynes, and that was Tafe. That was no, it wasn't my first Ormande Jayne. I bought Frangipani first, which I still love. Tafe I got it from Harrods because it was in the sale, and it was very cheap. And I knew I liked it. It was never a love, but I liked it a lot. I thought it was very pleasant. It's very easy. It's not a bold fragrance. And it was on for half price in Harrods, so I went for it, an impulse buy. I never really wore it that often. It's a rose fragrance, it's a Tafe rose fragrance. It had plum, I believe. I believe there was amber. It was quite ambery. It came off to me as quite leathery, which isn't a bad thing, but there was this unusualness about it. It sort of had a freshness to it from, I think there was mandarin and this plum. But there was also this low, heavier, more kind of one-dimensional feeling of this leather. I don't think there was leather in it, but it had this heaviness in it as well. It just seemed to stop short of adapting. And there was never an occasion to wear it for. I just couldn't understand why I had it in the end. I still think it's nice. I don't think it's unpleasant. Just unloved and unappreciated. So that one I parted ways with last week. Another I parted ways with last week was Delina La Rosee. Now, Delina La Rosee was indeed an impulse buy. Now, I obviously love the original Delina. I've also had Delina exclusive, which I sold that about a year ago now. It seems that the original Delina is the one for me. I bought La Rosee on impulse and a whim. I think I bought it just at the end of the winter this year. I actually can't remember when I bought it. But I liked the idea of having a Delina that I could wear more in the warmer days. I mean, you can wear Delina anytime, but I keep it because I don't know, I think I've got it hyped up in my head as some special occasion fragrance when I really don't ever wear it, and I should. But the La Rosee was an answer to me being able to just spritz it whenever and having a fresher approach. That's why I bought it. It was never my first love from the Delina line. I just liked it a lot, and I saw it on Notino with a big discount, and I just went for it. When I've worn it on a few occasions I have worn it, I've realised that there is something that always bothered me in it. It's a very pretty scent, and actually the opening of La Rosee is delicious. I love the opening. It's a very lychee forward rose. It's very juicy, succulent. There's a lot, I think it's lychee and pear that really come forward, and I love the opening. And if it stayed like that, I would have kept it. But it does develop more with the musk and something else as it dries down. I always had this watermelon feeling from La Rosee, and I really don't like watermelon in fragrance. It always is this lingering, heavy, cloying, watery feeling that isn't a good watery feeling, and it had that in La Rosee, and I just couldn't get with it. It was a combination of the musk and something else, and it bothered me, and I just didn't like it in the end. Delina La Rosee said her goodbyes and left the building again last week. So that was the 5 that I recently decluttered. And now we can focus on the positives, the ones I've been loving. And needless to say, if 5 have left the building, you'd be damn sure there's 5 that have now entered the building, because I do have this, I'm being strict with myself. I won't buy another one until one has left. 1 in, 1 out. A conscious effort to curate a little bit more and really just keep things I know I'm really loving that are special. Anyway, I'm not going to waffle on about the nature of what I'm buying fragrances. I do have 5 that I'm loving right now, and I'm going to get into that. I'm going to start with a fragrance that I can honestly say I'm addicted to. I'm obsessed with it. I cannot stop wearing it. It doesn't matter what the temperature, the weather, the feeling. I'm always in the mood for it. I blame Chante. Chante Tiffany. I love her. She's fantastic. Although I tried this fragrance about maybe a year and a half ago and dismissed it because it wasn't my style, Chante Tiffany recently had this in a haul, and she made me revisit my sample. Well, she didn't make me. I decided to revisit my sample, wear it, and something happened. It just seemed to click. I enjoyed every little nuance. I enjoyed everything it was doing. Realised I really need this fragrance. This is so beautiful, delicious, addictive, comforting, wonderful. So I decided to go ahead and purchase from Idolo Love and Crime. Now, I know this has been a lot of people's favourites in the fragrance community. Apparently it's quite similar to Lyra from Xerjoff. I once had Lyra and sold it. I found that one went in a sort of a breadier direction. It's not like bread. It was heavier, drier sort of a smell. Let's just get it out of the box. I've got them all in their boxes because it's just easier to carry them around. So it's just a simple little box, and it flips open like that. And I think they do come in a larger size. This is the 30ml, which I figured would be enough, to be honest. I don't think this is an extrait, but it's a very thick, oily fragrance. And it feels heavy, like it should be an extra. I think it's an eau de parfum. I'm not actually sure. It's an eau de parfum. I've just read it. It's an eau de parfum. The bottle's really sweet. It's quite straightforward. The label keeps becoming unstuck. I don't know if this one was just not pressed properly, but I still love it. It doesn't matter. The scent is where we're at. So Love and Crime is this. It's classed as a sweet citrus vanilla. We have blood mandarin in the top with pink pepper. In the mid, you've got sugar, star anise, and floral notes. In the base, you've got vanilla and cacao. For me, let's ignore the fact that there's mandarin here. This, to me, if you can imagine fragrant oil dripping out of a lemon drizzle cake, because that's what I get from it. Maybe I love it a lot because it isn't straight lemon. I'm not normally a lemon fragrance fan, but it comes off as bright, like a lemon. It seems to cut through the oil a little bit. It's not heavy. Gourmand fragrances aren't normally my bag of chips. I don't tend to enjoy smelling like straight up food. And although this one is as close, I think, as I'm going to get to a straight up true gourmand, it does have nuances. It does have a perfumey musk, which stops it going too far in that direction. But it still has this delicious, comforting, addictive, cakey quality. And it's it is so, using the word moist, it's so moist and delicious. So Moorish in that way. There are floral notes in the mid. I would never think of it being a floral fragrance, but like I say, it's so finished. It's so well finished that there is something that keeps it perhaps slightly pretty in there without it being, like I say, a one-dimensional straight up cake. It's very well executed, this. It's very satisfying. And although it does dry down to a very vanillic musk, maybe it is a vanillin, you know, a vanillin vanilla. It's a delicious vanilla-y musk. It's beautiful. And I can't stop. It doesn't look like I've worn an awful lot. You don't need a lot of this. It's very strong. It's very, very strong. You can't stop wearing this fragrance at all. So glad I took the plunge with this one. So that is X Idolo Love and Crime. So I seem to be having quite a thing for citric vanillas right now, because this next fragrance isn't really too far removed from Love and Crime. It's just done very differently. This is Sublime Vanille. Now, this is a very expensive fragrance. Like, I was never going to pay full price for this. I got a sample from, and I really love the scent. I really thought, no, I love this, but I can't afford it. And I've been checking on different retail outlets, just anyone selling it secondhand. I ended up finding a seller on Etsy, but I didn't realise their location until I pressed buy. If I'd known, I wouldn't have probably gone for it, because there's always that risk, isn't there? It was very cheap for what it was, very cheap. And when I went for it, because the reviews were good, I realised it was coming from Turkey. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying fragrances from Turkey. I don't know enough about it to comment, to be honest. But anything from outside of the UK, there's always the risk of problems with shipping. You know, there is problems with authenticity, because you just never know, and it's going to be hard to return things if you weren't happy. The point is, it's fine. Luckily, it's all fine. So I think I got a great deal here. But, you know, it could have gone either way. So Sublime Vanille. Now, let's just open it. I'm not that impressed with the packaging. I think apparently this is the way with the creeds. Even though it is a very expensive fragrance, it's very flimsy, easy to tear cardboard. And the actual holder, it's really basic. You can see how basically cheap that actually is for what is quite a beautiful bottle. So let's just pop that out. So the bottle is very pretty. Don't know enough about these bottles to know if this is all good. I just know that the scent smells exactly the same as my sample. Everything looks good enough to me. There's a little scratch on the label, and there's a little dent. It's been touched and handled, but it seems to be fine apart from that. Just give this a little spray. Okay, so vanillic, citrus vanilla, that's exactly what this is. It's gone straight into my mouth. This is a really soft, floaty, elegant citric vanilla. It's not thick and loud and heavily gourmand like Love and Crime. This is a floating musk that carries vanilla and a little hint of lemon. It's slightly powdery, but it's very delicately done. It has bourbon vanilla and vanilla orchid at the top. We have tonka in the middle, and there's lemon, bergamot, and musk in the base. So the citruses are actually in the base, which is unusual, but they linger on for longer. It doesn't just end up with just a musk. You do have that delicate hint of citrus floating along with the musks in the dry down. In fact, I find this actually improves through the way. It starts off so quiet. You get the vanilla, you get a soft, delicate, powdery vanilla. But I find that it seems to pick up a little bit after a little bit of time. Like, you start to get little wafts, gentle wafts within you. It's not going to be loud. It does sort of stay maybe slightly more than a skin scent, but nothing too crazy. But I like the wafts I get through the wear. Everything is equally proportioned. I get as much tonka as I do vanilla. I get as much probably the bergamot as I do get lemon, and the musk just kind of pulls everything together. So it stays very delicate, very dreamy, floaty, quiet, but it's so pretty, and I just love the scent. Something about this citric vanilla thing is really hitting the spot right now. So that is Sublime Vanille from Creed. So another fragrance that I can't stop wearing. I'm having trouble not spraying it really every day. It's another pretty, graceful, delicate fragrance. This time from the House of Dior. It's part of the Maison Dior range. I don't have a full bottle of this, but I do have a little decanted bottle that my friend did for me. She's got a big bottle, and she kindly decanted me my own little bottle, which actually does look a little bit like a Dior bottle, which is really cute. This is Sakura. It is cherry blossom. Sakura is Japanese for cherry blossom, and that's exactly what this is. In the top notes, we do have Japanese cherry blossom. There are green notes, rose, jasmine, hedione. We have mimosa, violet, and white musk. I don't know what's the base and what's the mid notes. I've actually just read them off of Fragrantica. The cherry blossom does indeed stand out as the main note. This is the kind of fragrance that I would say and describe as a ballerina floral. All I mean by that is it's graceful, it's sort of pure smelling, It's pretty, it's delicate, it's clean, it's uncomplicated. It smells like a pale pastel coloured floral. And it's just so pretty. It's so easy and graceful. In the opening you get more of the green notes. They're lovely and bright and zesty. They're really beautiful green notes. They're not too strong. You know, it opens it out with luminosity, but they kind of fade back a bit and you get this delicate wash of the florals coming forward, and they stay delicate with the cherry blossom just slightly ahead of everything else. It's almost like a lotion feel to it because it's so smooth, glides, you know, like a lotion. It's just really, really pretty. It's very delicate, uncomplicated halo of florals. It's just so pretty. That is Sakura from Dior. So the next fragrance I've got here that I'm also really enjoying was also a huge relief because I bought it blindly and I bought it from eBay, as I always do. So this one was only launched this year, and there aren't many reviews of it on eBay or anywhere just yet, although it is a reformulated fragrance that came out quite a little while ago. So it is a reformulated one, so it's not brand new in terms of its scent profile. It's just been repackaged and tweaked in its materials. I'm talking about Millet Rose. Millet Rose. Oh my goodness. Millet Rose. I went ahead and took the plunge on the assumption of it being a Maison Lancome and it being a type of rose that I assumed I would love. I'm pleased to say that I really, really do. Let's jump in and get this bottle out because the bottle is extremely pretty. It is obviously ones we've seen before from the Maison Lancome range in the same style, but this one is just really beautiful. Like I say, I'm not familiar with the original formulation or even the design. I've seen pictures since, and it has a blue aesthetic. I don't know if the bottle is blue or if the juice is blue. I think the juice is blue. In fact, no, it is. The juice was blue. But they've changed all that up now to go for a much more natural feeling for this new formulation. I'm going to read out a lot of the blurb on this one from the Lancome website because I do think it suits it. I think it's interesting to describe why they have obviously redone it, and it does give you a good idea about the fragrance. So Millet Rose is all about the Centifolia rose. It's made from 97% natural ingredients. The fragrance captures the essence of the Domaine de la Rose in a bouquet of 1001 roses. This reinvention of the long-loved fragrance is the promise of a refreshing floral journey. So it's reformulated without the colorant for a more natural feel and aesthetic, and also to allow this gold plaque to really stand out against the more clear liquid. It's like a forever vase of 1001 roses dipped in pure gold. Heritage doors are engraved in the fragrance's golden veil. The design on the plaque is the invitation to pass through the golden doors of our sanctuary, the Domaine de la Rose in Grasse, France. So Lancome are obviously putting a lot of emphasis and dedication on this sanctuary where they grow the Centifolia roses called the Domaine de la Rose. And I do love how they have included these golden gates as if they are inviting you in to the fragrance. I think that's quite a nice little touch. Looking at it is the feeling I get when I smell the fragrance. It is a fresh, vibrant, pretty pink rose garden. We have bergamot, mandarin orange and pear at the top. There is grass rose in the mid, and then there is amber in the base. I would agree with Corinne here. Now, she did a review of this fragrance on her channel, which is Olfactive Stories. And I totally understand what she means when she says that the top notes, that pear, the bergamot and a bit of mandarin, they seem to cloud the rose a little bit, which is a shame because the rose really is so pretty. And it's not light and wispy. There's quite a punch in there of this pink rose, but it seems to be being pushed down very slightly or pushed back slightly with the green elements in here. I do still think it is absolutely beautiful, and I find the pear quite warm. There's a veil of pear and the other fruits sitting on top of the rose, and without making it sound like it's a gourmand fragrance in any way, whenever I smell this I think of a lattice work pie. Like a really delicate fragrant lattice pie. So I don't know why lattice, I don't know, it's just I'm getting the scent of the other things through a lattice effect. I don't understand why. This top layer of warm pear, it's not too sweet. It's not too sweet. And then you've got this warm bed of pink rose petals just below the pear. And then that ambery feel in the base is also very light. It's not strong, but it is making, it's called giving it a sugary layer at the base. And it's bringing warmth to everything from the base. So I get this pretty lattice pink and green pie. It reminds me of Pivot Pretemps, another from this line of Lancome fragrance. I think that's now discontinued, and that was a peony based fragrance. It's very similar to this. I recognise a lot of the DNA in this fragrance. Interestingly, another fragrance it really reminds me of in the dry down is Sakura. Really similar to Sakura in the dry down. I don't know why. Obviously that one being Japanese cherry blossom, this one is all about the rose. I think it's so beautiful, so I'm really happy with that. So that's Millet Rose, and that's from Maison Lancome. So this last fragrance I'm going to talk about, it really does highlight how eclectic my fragrances are, because there really is a wide range. And this is an oldie but a goodie. And I'm sure I've smelt this since I was a little girl. I'm sure I've smelt it on other people. I got a sample sent along with other things from Smurfygurly Claire. She included a sample of this. And it turns out it's a beautiful transitional fragrance from summer to autumn. And because it's an oldie but a goodie, it's just timeless and elegant and classy and lovely. So I'm talking about Coco Chanel. Coco Eau de Parfum from Chanel. So like I say, oldie but a goodie. I didn't realise just how lovely this was. I just always assumed that these sort of Chanels weren't for me. It turns out I was wrong. So of course we have the classic, really gorgeous bottles. I've always loved the bottles. You can't not love them. They're so iconic. The most noticeable thing about Coco Eau de Parfum for me, and the reason why this is the one that I ended up really loving, is because it doesn't have that signature dirty patchouli that the others seem to have. There's no patchouli in this, and it makes all the difference for me. It's a smooth, ambery, balsamic fragrance. It is jam-packed, full of notes, as is the way with a lot of these vintage fragrances. At the top we've got Bulgarian rose, coriander, peach, jasmine, mandarin orange. In the mid you've got clove, rose, orange blossom, mimosa and clover. And in the base we've got the amber, we've got sandalwood, tonka bean, civet, opoponax, vanilla and labdanum. So there's a lot of sweet resinous elements in the base. You've got spices in the top and the mid. I do pick up on the spice. I always thought it was nutmeg that I could smell in here, but I think it's that clove that kind of stands forward and gives it that sort of spicy, vintage, warm kind of feel. Definitely get that feeling of that bright mandarin and peach in the opening. There's a brightness and it's a tiny bit juicy. The amber's lovely. It's definitely ambery, no question. The opoponax labdanum. So you've got those sweet kind of sticky resins. I love how smooth it is, and actually it's kind of easy to wear. It's not heavy and sickly and sticky. I do think there are aldehydes, they're not listed, but you get that slight aldehyde feeling. It gives it a slightly dry, waxy surface, somehow light and kind of fresh at the same time. It makes me think of a botanical Coca-Cola. Like, if you can imagine the smell of a botanical Coca-Cola with hints of spice tucked in, nuances from all those other notes in there as well, but it has this smooth Coca-Cola feel about it, but no fizz, just that smooth, resinous, kind of glowy feel. Not the sort of scent I thought I'd ever go for, ever wear, but as it happens, it is quite easy to wear, and it just makes you feel kind of finished. You know, you haven't got to be wearing a little black dress to wear this. I can wear anything and I still feel a bit more put together. It's like that finishing touch. So that is one that I have started to wear and really enjoy, and it is a lovely transitional fragrance from summer to autumn, because it still has that freshness and that kind of light elegance, but it also has the spices and the resinous feel that take you into the autumn really beautifully. So that is Coco Eau de Parfum by Chanel. And that's all, guys. So that's 5 fragrances I've been loving. That's 5 that have left the building. That's my little roundup for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thanks for tuning in and watching as always. I shall see you on the next one. Over and out.